Hi everyone, so today I want to show you how to use salt in watercolor to create interesting textures. And let's see, so basically I want to do a number of things. Also, what I want to see is how salt reacts with transparent versus slightly more opaque colors, whether they're going to be much of a difference, whether the pigment is going to behave in any different way. So here I've got the Daniel Smith Pyrrol Scarlet, and here I have the Daniel Smith Perylene Scarlet. So that is that. So I'm going to grab my brush. Now you can use different salts. You can use a like a sea salt, you know, those flakes, or you can use table salt, which is this very fine kind of salt, and I find that the table salt looks more interesting. It gives more texture. So let's start by that Daniel Smith Pyrrol Scarlet. I'm just going to clean up my color slightly because it's a bit dirty. And then first of all I'm going to do just wet and wet like that, and then next to it I'm just going to do like a little sort of swatch thing, and then just add a bit of that, and while it's wet you just take salt and let it get absorbed. That color actually dried so quick here, so I'm just dropping some water into there. Next thing to do is, let's have a look. So I'm going to this time create a wetter oh, I went into the wrong color. No, I did not. So there we go. Beautiful red. And then next to it I will do this, and then again while it is wet sprinkle the salt. So now let's actually use this in a flower illustration. So I'm just going to draw out a little shape here, and then just do wet and wet. In some places it has dried up a little bit. So let's see, I'm going to go into Indian yellow, quite like it, with a red. I'm going to leave some of those speckles of light coming through, and then I'm going to go, this time I'm just going to go with salt here and then this area a little bit, and leave this untouched just to see what the difference will be like. And while we're at it, let's also try and draw in some leaves. Something like that, and then I'm going to also go into gold green, and while we're at it, a bit of yellow as well, and let's go in with salt just on one side like that, and then a little bit darker petal just over here with a bit of water there and a bit of salt on this side. Right, So the thing to do is to wait for the colors to dry completely. And I don't know if I'm going to use a heat gun, will the salt just blow away or not? I'll try it and I'll see how I get on. Okay, so I wouldn't recommend using a heat gun because it seems to sort of melt the salt onto the paper a little bit, and it's harder to get it off the paper, so you have to kind of scrub it off almost. So if you do have the time, just let the salt dry naturally, just leave it somewhere and come back to it in a good time. So the effects of it are quite beautiful. As you can see, you can create really lovely texture. And so this is the let's see, the Perylene Scarlet is this one, and this is the Pyrrol Scarlet. It's hard to say which one I prefer better. This one is very interesting. So I think also depends on how much water you have there. So if you have a lot of water, you can create these other textures here, which are right in the middle, that are really interesting. And here it's very pretty on this side, but here on this petal I messed it up because there was still quite a bit of water and I didn't realize that the salt didn't dry. So when I started moving it basically smudged those effects, the little speckles that you would have otherwise. They have smudged a little, but still quite a nice textural effect around it as well. So let's now put this into an illustration and see what we can create. So I'm going to actually go with that, let's see, I'm going to go with this red here. So I feel like poppies would look really nice because it's you know, you can get this lovely kind of texture that a poppy naturally has. So I'm just going to try and use the salt to create the textural effects like so. And then I'm going to maybe mix up a bit more of an orangey red. Although I do prefer a bit more of the red. So I'm just making so wherever it dries quite rapidly, you just wet it again and sprinkle salt. And just for the measures, let's create a third one somewhere around here. Okay. So wherever you have quite a bit of salt, that's when you're going to get these lovely areas like I mentioned here. So that should be it. And now I'm just going to let it dry naturally, and then we'll see what it looks like. So here they are, nice and dry now, and very pretty, I have to say. Quite a nice way to add texture. So basically you can see that wherever the salt was sitting, it just sucks up like a sponge the watercolor pigment, and then you end up with these lovely speckles. So you can play around and if you sprinkle it just lightly, you're going to have this effect, which is you can see more of the individual little crystals picking up the pigment from the paper. Or if you do larger areas, then you can create these sort of bigger areas like that. You can play with water. The more water you add, then you're also going to have the blooming or the cauliflowering stronger and emphasized, and then a bunch of different textures you can get. So you can see 4 different looks there. So I'm going to just do my illustration and use the Muji Gel Pen, the 0.25 fine liner, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and doodle around. And because it's not a tutorial, I'll just speed it up a little bit so you can enjoy the illustration with a bit of music, and then we'll come back and I'll show you again. Okay, so I think this is where I will stop. I had a lot of fun painting these poppies. So you can see, you know, the texture of the watercolor comes through beautifully. And yeah, I'm quite happy with the look. I just did some white doodles just to emphasize the texture even more. I hope you are going to try this technique, watercolor technique, and maybe create some poppies as well, or other flowers. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and see you soon.